Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm Dash Brandon. Today I wanted to talk about the Huntress and how her stats affect her traps because I feel like everyone else, it's pretty self-explanatory, at least initially. I mean, we can go way deeper on, I think, all of them. But the Huntress is the most interesting because her stats can sometimes affect different traps in different ways. So, for example, right now we have a regular old explosive trap. It's level 1, hasn't been leveled up. We're also missing 2 pieces of gear, and this is so I can illustrate a point. As soon as we put on those 2 pieces of gear, our stats go up, our range goes up, and therefore the target radius goes up. See? Before we weren't even activating it, now we're activating it. We drop our chest and our helmet back off. In fact, I don't even know if they both have range. Yeah, they both have range. They have about 36 range between the two of them. Plus I think it's 40% stat bonus for having the matching set. So another 40% of that is approximately like another 15 or 16 range that we throw onto that. So as you can see, range affects the size of the trigger, which you as a player can also affect that by holding control and scrolling your mouse wheel in and out. I don't know how to do it on a console. I'm sure that it's in there somewhere. But it affects your trap range, the trigger range. But for other traps, including, well, for this trap and all your other traps, except for your Thunder Spike. Your Thunder Spike's a special flower because it only affects one target. With the exception of those traps, or that trap, it will also affect the effective range of your trap. So as soon as it resets, it's hitting both of these targets. If we add just a little bit less range, it would probably still hit it. Yeah, it would still hit it. But it might not hit something else when we're actually playing the game. So that is how range can affect our traps, the stat range that we can pick up here. Something else I've noticed is that on your effective range, like the range that it, like with the explosive trap where it's blowing up here, that seems to be rounded down whenever you're looking at your trap, though we're not really sure if the breakpoints of when it's rounding actually affects its effective range. I don't know a better way to say that. So what I'm saying here is that our effective range is right here, right? It says that we have a range of 3 and a range of 5. If we take off these 2 items, we now have a range of 2. Shut up, dog! A range of 2 and a range of 4. Which is important because it just rounded those numbers slightly differently based on a total of, what do we say, like 50 range. So anyways, that's pretty much how range affects everything as far as the traps go. Range doesn't really affect your Thunder Spike trap because it's a single target trap, so as soon as something triggers it, that thing's going to get blown up. Usually you hope it's an ogre. Alright? Usually you're going to hope it's an ogre. The other thing we should talk about is Fortify, because Fortify also affects your stats and your traps in a couple of different ways. So we currently have our gas trap here. It has 41 uses. If we take off some gear, it now has 33 uses. To get it up to 41 again, we have to upgrade it a couple times. So by doing that, we lost a total of 50, we'll call it 75 fortitude. But let's look at something else when we're looking at this. Let's look at that duration stat, 37.04 seconds. Go ahead and equip our chest piece. Look at it again. We just gained 3 seconds of effective time on this gas trap. So that means that, shut up, dog. I'm looking at you. So each time we upgrade this, we're going to be getting more duration, but also with more fortitude. Not only are we getting up to this 90 charges here with our measly fort stats we have, this is like a hybrid Huntress I'm using. Our fortify stats are 294. So not only do we have 90 uses on the trap, but it's also going to last 68.88 seconds. So we got almost 69 seconds here of trap effective time. That's all from Fort. The power stat is pretty self-explanatory. It affects how hard your traps hit, but it only affects your damage traps. So it affects your explosive trap, it affects your inferno trap, it affects your not your darkness, but your thunder spike trap. So if we go ahead and put this down, it does 51,000 damage when it's triggered. If we go ahead and take off a little bit of power, and now deals 45,000 damage. So that one's pretty self-explanatory. Power is self-explanatory, and defensive rate is self-explanatory. That affects how fast your trap can reset. So, would I recommend having high reset rate on your traps? Probably not. It doesn't seem to scale very well. It doesn't go very quickly. After you get, say, like 100 on your reset, on your defensive rate on your Huntress, you really don't need much more, because reset doesn't scale that well. Power scales well. Fort is always nice to have on the Huntress, because you're trying to get these fat traps, like we're trying to get these fat darkness traps, where we don't have to touch them anymore for like a whole wave or even 2 waves, because the darkness is also affected. That's not even a darkness trap. The darkness trap is also affected by the duration. So we can have a 43-second duration on 43 charges right now, which is pretty good. It's not fat stats, but it's pretty good. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure that's all we really got to talk about when it comes to the Huntress for stats and her towers. And by towers, I mean traps. Fortify affects the duration of your 2, your 3, and your 4. 2, 3, and 4. Gas, Inferno, Darkness. Your damage, your power is affected by your 1, your 3, and your 5. See how the Huntress is a little bit more interesting. Your 1, your 3, and your 5 are all affected by your damage, by your power. Range is affected by affects everything in a way, but not as much on your Thunder Strike. I don't think it'll hit a random target if there's only one target, 1 or 2 targets within the range. I think it'll hit whatever is closest to the trigger. It's affected by power, not range. Reset rate affects everything fairly the same and fairly poorly. Range is good for things that have an area of effect, such as your 1, your 2, your 3, and your 4. So range is good for everything. Fortitude is what I'm going to focus the most on, mostly because I'm using darkness and gas traps with my Huntress, so I can set up my Squire to just blow everything up. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm Dash Brandon. I'll see you guys next time for more Dungeon Defenders Awakened. Bye bye.